Welcome to the Meltzone podcast. This is episode 51. I had to look that up real quick. I'm Tom.
And I'm Stefan. And this episode has been a bit delayed because, again, I had been on holiday. I'm sorry. So, on today's episode, we are just catching a bit up what happened over the last weeks and months, where I have been, what Tom has done. And, of course, tackling topics like the E3D Revo, E3D's new Hotend, not called V6, but Revo, what our thoughts are on it, what we find good, what we find bad, a bit patent talk, because it's like the first product where E3D patented something. And yeah, just when it's coming out, what the pricing is and everything like that. Then I quickly talk about my first product that I have finally launched on Amazon, my threaded inserts, why I did it, what you can expect from it. Next, Prusa talk. Tom did a upgrade live stream on the SL1 with a new screen. Has been a bit more complicated than maybe would have expected in the first place, but still really interesting, and what the outcome of that was.
Then, sticking on the topic of Prusa are at Dubai, at the Dubai Expo, and they have shown off a new product concept. I'm not sure how much of a product it is right now, but the Prusa Professional Manufacturing Center with 34 printers, automated print ejection, and all that. We talk about what we see for that in the future. A quick follow-up to the last episode, I know it's been a while, about which slices are compatible with the Mars 3. Not that many. And then one thing that we... that we and most people aren't really happy about, the fact that Thingiverse is sneakily replacing affiliate links with their own and taking away revenue from creators. That's just not nice. Lastly, we do take one question about one of the topics from last time, about the Krelian 3D upside down 3D printer and whether a 90-degree bent hotend or a 90-degree rerouted hotend is a good idea, and what speaks for or against it. Stefan, where have you been? I've missed talking to you. It's been so long.
Thank you. Yeah, it has been a while, and I'm quite sorry that we didn't record when we visited you. Yeah, where have I been? So yeah, parental leave for 2 months, and within those 2 months, I didn't really work that much. We were like a good week on vacation in southern Tyrol. Then we were like a week home. And then we went on our 3.5-week camping trip, where we also visited you for a short lunch break.
Half an afternoon.
Then we came back home, and like last weekend I again was on a wedding in Salzburg, which was, I don't know, in the end quite exhausting, everything, and I'm quite happy to be back home.
Mr. Worldwide, yeah.
Yeah, well, I really enjoyed the time, and everyone who is getting a baby or has small kids should really take some time off and just like spend really like 24/7 for a couple of days or weeks with their kid, because I really enjoyed it that much. And I'm quite sure that this is, well, kind of a unique time where you have really the opportunity to be away for such a long time. No work, just concentration on like the family and the baby. And it was really great. Still, it's good to be back home. Just like living in a camper for 3.5 weeks at some point. Right. Everything is dirty. Right. You're missing the space. You're missing I miss my dishwasher so much. Washing dishes two times a day.
Those little conveniences that you just get used to. Yeah, but hey, it's something different. You had the chance. You took it. Good for you.
Enjoyed it. Glad it was really great, like visiting you finally, seeing your studio, seeing your 2 dogs and everything. So I enjoyed it. As I said, I really regretted that we basically didn't have the time to record something. So
you're welcome to come over again anytime.
Yeah. So I will only be working like in my normal job, like for the next time for just 2 days a week. So I have more time for the family, of course, but then also more time for content creation and the channel. So I hope to find the time again to get a proper visit to your home and studio.
Sure. Yeah. When I visited you, we did some FPV flying. I actually just recently got into that as well. I got me an eSheen set of goggles. It's one goggle. Finally, some proper antennas and stuff, and it's fun. It's fun. Already crashed the plane twice. But thankfully those foam wings are super robust.
Yeah. EPP is so nice.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I still want to do that printed project where I still have where is it? It's actually over there on the shelf. I've still got a full second kit of that wing. I've got an S800 wing. If you guys are watching, you can Google that. And basically I want to take the center part and just stretch it out, like make it 1.5 times or twice as wide, just to make space for like more batteries, more electronics, like all the FPV gears, FPV gear stuff, flight controller, all that stuff is like super cramped in there. And that could be something that I do with the, what's it called? The expanding PLA from ColorFab.
Yeah. Yep.
They have expanding PTG now too, don't they?
So ColorFab has lightweight PLA.
Right.
They have lightweight TPU and they have lightweight ASA. I would not know that they also have PTG.
Thinking about it again, though, probably the lightweight TPU might also be a good option because the structure of that flying wing is just carbon spars. So it doesn't require the foam to be particularly rigid. It's just basically creating an airfoil. That's all that's for.
But the thing is with the expanding TPU is that it gets really, really floppy. That it almost feels like a piece of cloth.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would not really recommend that for structural parts, though everything which might be like the direct crash location might actually be benefiting from like the foam structure and the dampening structure of all of that.
Yeah, so maybe just lightweight, the very front,
Yeah. Lightweight ASA is pretty cool in my opinion because the problem always with PLA was it is kind of okay where we are living, but if you leave your 3D printed PLA plane in your car in summer, there is a high chance that it gets just a little bit too hot and that your whole plane deforms.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's all carbon spars on the inside. Those are not going to deform. So, but still, the airfoil shape might not look that good anymore after that.
Yeah. Give it a try. There.
I've got two spools of the lightweight PLA. They still need to be used, but I don't have the TPU yet. I
might still have like 2 rolls right here.
Oh.
I need to see. 3D Lab Print, who are the guys who really, I guess, started the big 3D printing airplane game. They also introduced at the beginning of this year their own, how are they calling it? Their own plain 3D printing filament. I guess it's just like an impact resistant PLA.
Okay.
You always, all right. If you have carbon spars in there, I guess it doesn't really matter the structural integrity of the material. But for example, 3D Lab Print or Eclipse on Airplanes is like a Spanish company who's also doing 3D printed airplanes. They often have like 2 versions of a plane for lightweight PLA and the normal PLA, just because many of their planes really depend on the structural integrity of the material.
Yeah,
but
they don't have spars in there. It's literally the fuselage that supports everything, and that is one entire printed part. So we'll see. We'll see. Interesting, and just getting out there and flying again is really good fun.
Yeah. Well, I guess the problem is autumn is coming, harsh winds and everything. Well, you got your control board in there.
I've got the flight control in there, and unless you've got like hurricane style winds, it's pretty good. Like you can see like the leveling kind of shaking on the FPV. You can see it like struggling. And the bigger problem with the wings, of course, is if you stall them, you can't recover. Because what they end up doing is what's called a tip stall, where if you have your plane, basically, one wing flies forward and you have the same airspeed roughly over both wings. But once one side kind of stalls and gets too slow, you lose airflow and you lose uplift on that side. So basically the one side dips down and you go into a death spiral, basically, where the inner wing has no more airflow, no more uplift. The outside one has tons of airspeed. You can push engine power into that as much as you want, but it just spirals quicker. So that's actually what crashes those. And maybe with the wider inner section, the wider center section, I can add 2 small motors instead of 1 large one. Mm-hmm. And I can do like active, yaw correction.
Yeah.
With that. Would also remove the need for those little winglet tips that basically stabilize it left to right.
Thrust vectoring.
Basically,
it would be thrust vectoring.
Yeah, and the flight controller should support that.
Yeah.
Running iNav, and that does have all the mixer and the PID matrix there's so much you can do in there, and I feel like I've only scratched the surface.
Yeah, you got to dedicate quite some time if you want to really dig deep into that. That's a totally new hobby and rabbit hole that you're opening there.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the YouTube channel is just about this sort of stuff. Of course there are. I mean, why wouldn't there?
So I'm back home. Hopefully I still, there's still some time remaining for some hobbies. Gaming fall and winter is coming. There's some, I guess, pretty nice games coming up that I hope to play over the winter. And I hope that just the additional time I have gives me more space for family and YouTube work and keeps me away from burning out. But we'll see. Yeah. It's always great if you have been working for quite a while just by yourself in your cave, and then you get to this podcast opportunity and finally have a nice conversation again.
Yeah. Hey, on the topic of gaming, you've played Red Dead Redemption 2, right?
Yes.
Okay, I've not played it yet because so when I game, it's always with my buddy. We always play co-op games, and I rarely sit down and play by myself. And I've given up on like competitive online stuff because there's just way too much salt. And when I sit down, I just want to have a good time. And Red Dead Redemption 2 does have you can play the entire thing co-op, right? Mm. You can just live join, but so far it's always been it's never dipped down below the $60 or $50, and I'm just like, $100 for us too. But now it looks like you can finally get it for like a decent price, and I might just grab the 3090 out of my editing rig and put it into my gaming system to play it on the 4K TV.
I just wanted to say it's pretty demanding, but I think they just implemented DLSS.
Yeah,
DLSS. Yeah, for Red Dead Redemption.
Super something. That's supposed to work really well. Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoy multiplayer gaming, especially if you have somebody to play with, but single player experiences are sometimes also just so good, and Red Dead Redemption is like one of the best stories and well-made games out there. Yeah. If you like the cowboy setting and the Wild West setting, do it.
If it's well done. I mean, and from what I hear, it is extremely well done.
Do it. Otherwise, you haven't played Half-Life Alyx yet. You haven't played the old Half-Life games.
I have not played the old Half-Lives, no. But again, those are single player ones, and like I said, I rarely take the time to just sit down.
Play Half-Life Alyx.
Okay.
This is truly one of the most impressive gaming experience I ever had. Sorry for everyone who's here for the 3D printing stuff.
we've got catching up to do. Like, you guys wait, okay?
Half-Life Alyx is the best virtual reality experience there is. Full stop. It's
right.
A real AAA title made for virtual reality. It works great. It is scary a bit, but not like the Doom 3 I shit my pants scary. At least I had the experience when I played that like the 10 or 15 years back, never played it like any further. It is just so good. Of course, I'm maybe a bit biased because I like the old Half-Life games, but it's good.
Okay, yeah. I was actually thinking about selling my Vive because it's been sitting for probably a year unused. So I don't know, one last hooray. Get Half-Life Alyx, play that, and then get rid of it. Huh?
Yeah. So sometimes you need to do other things than just working. And for me, also gaming is like a thing that gets me to a nice place. Where I don't have to like worry about view counts and sponsors and things like that.
No sponsor on this podcast episode, by the way. So,
yeah.
If you're interested in sponsoring an episode, let us know. You've got like contact info in the description. Do we have some stuff in there? I think so. Yeah.
Otherwise, probably, just send Tom or me an email.
You'll find us.
Yeah.
So shall we get into some actual 3D printing stuff?
Yes.
I mean, it's been 4 weeks. It feels like there should be a lot to talk about, but of course, the big one is E3D's. What is the full name? E3D Rapid Change Revo. Their new Hotend ecosystem. Stefan, you have missed the influencer introduction to the briefing. Yeah, I missed it too. But thankfully Sanjay reached out. Sanjay from E3D reached out and was like, "Hey, Tom, do you want a private tour?" And I've known the guys for a while. Like I've chatted to Sanjay back when they just barely introduced their V4, their first commercial project, and I gave him feedback on that. So I've known the guys for a while, and he walked me through some stuff that probably wasn't all intended for the public. But yeah, E3D Rapid Change Review. E3D Rapid Change Revo. Whole new ecosystem. Whole new thing that is 100% incompatible to the old stuff. The only thing that is still compatible is if you get the Revo 6. That makes it compatible to
the old V6 groove mount.
Basically puts it in the same shape and length and all that of a V6. Yeah. But what they've done is they've gotten rid of the nozzle, they've gotten rid of the heater block, they've gotten rid of the heat break, and they combined the nozzle and the heat break into one part. And then they've got a slide over cartridge, the heater core, with a cylindrical heater, a ceramic heater, that also is just one part that you buy. You don't assemble the thermistor and heater cartridge anymore. It is literally just one slug that sits over the nozzle. And because the nozzle and the heat break are now one part, basically there's no thread in that heater core anymore. It just slides through, and you just thread the nozzle into the heat break directly. So basically nozzle swap, that's the big thing, that's the big point. It's rapid change because you can just unscrew the nozzle, it comes out with the heat break, and you screw in a new nozzle through the heater core into the heat break and just hand tighten it. There's no hot tightening. There's no ways that heat break could leak because it is without giving away any details that I'm not supposed to give away. It is a solid fit inside the brass thread up top and inside the brass nozzle in the bottom. So there's like it is sealed mechanically and it's shut. Like there's no way any filament's coming out of that ever. But of course, it's a completely new design. So any M6 nozzles you have, doesn't work anymore. The only thing that's still compatible is Hemera. So Revo now uses the Hemera thread of like the upper side of the heat break, so you can still screw a Revo heater core and nozzle into an Emera, into an old Emera, and that's still going to work. That is the only point where it's still compatible with everything else. But like the rest of the system, completely new. So I don't know how to feel about that.
I guess it was kind of a logical step going into the direction of a deeper integration, especially taking a look at the heater core. So the thing I don't really know what to think about is the incompatibility with like the typical M6 thread nozzles that everyone has probably laying around. But everything else, I guess since, well, the Revo 6 is basically the same size and length as a V6, I find it kind of nice that, for example, I can take my old Prusa printers, rip the old V6 out and put a Revo 6 in there, with the benefit of having like a smaller heater core, the rapid change functionality, and probably also the better performance due to the stainless steel tubing they're using for a heat break.
Yeah. So all the parts in Revo were engineered to be better than V6. So the heat break is more robust. It insulates a bit better because it's now a new manufacturing process. Heating performance is better. Like everything's just a bit above of where V6 performed. Yeah. And yeah, like I said, the problem with the incompatibility with the M6 nozzle is that's like my biggest pain point right now, because you can't. Well, one of the big selling points perhaps for V6 and V6 compatible hotends is you can get a new nozzle everywhere. You can get nozzles in dozens of different materials, coatings, sizes. You can get them from, like, I can grab a slice engineering nozzle, I can screw that into a V6 and it's going to work perfectly. I can grab a V6 compatible nozzle and throw it into an Endo 3 and it's going to work. Like the fact that is such a widespread and accepted standard, and they're now deviating from that it's rough, because basically the only one who's supplying those nozzles right now is E3D. And on top of that, because E3D Revo is now the first product they're making that is patented, I don't know if there's ever going to be somebody else making Revo nozzles.
So this was one of the big questions. So I haven't seen what exactly E3D patented, and I think it's still patent pending.
Yeah, they're not publishing the details about that until the patent is approved. I guess that's just requirements of the patenting process.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I'm also big. I don't know what to think about what happens to third-party nozzles and third-party accessories if like the whole Revo system is patented now. Does that prohibit, for example, I don't know, how they call it, Zodiac or whoever manufactures nozzles? Does that prohibit them now from making a Revo compatible nozzle because the whole system is patented? Or as I said, I don't know. Or are they still allowed to do that? And are just other third-party manufacturers not allowed to basically manufacture the whole combination between the heatsink, then the spring and the heater core? Because as I said, I haven't seen the patent, and nobody from E3D told me anything about that.
And
but
I
guess
else knows
just
about it right now.
Just from looking at it, what I would suspect what is patented is the combination of this spring and the heater core, and the spring is pushing the heater core onto the nozzle, and there is no more, I don't know, screw-in connection between the heater core and the nozzle itself. I don't know. I guess
I would have assumed it would be the manufacturing process for mating the heat break with the nozzle and the thread up top. Just that used for, I would have assumed it was that specifically for 3D printing. We don't know. It's only speculation.
Okay. you maybe know more about the manufacturing process, but in the end, looking at it, it just looks like a bimetal heat break that, for example, Slice Engineering is selling. And the difference is that instead of just having a bimetal heat break, they are also adding directly the nozzle in there. So I don't know if just a patent on the manufacturing process of I have a nozzle that I connect with a stainless steel tube to the, what's the other side called? I don't know. If that would be the case, of course, that would totally prohibit anyone from just copying that design and making third-party accessories. Or
unless, of course, E3D goes the high route and says, hey, you can license this. You can license our engineering for a reasonable fee.
Yeah. I think this is something that they said. The thing that they just, I guess, want to prohibit in the future is that there are cheap clones coming on the market that just take advantage of their development that they made. Yeah. And also, even if they are using the name E3D in some way in that maybe even putting the E3D name to shame if it's not working in the end. I guess Sanjay has said that if there might be possibilities of licensing, and this, I guess, would be a possibility that also, like currently a nozzle manufacturer might license the process or might license the compatibility to the Revo system. But the manufacturing process and also the tolerances and everything is quite a bit more complicated than just manufacturing a nozzle out of a special material and with, I don't know, a special coating. So that definitely complicates things and doesn't make it that easy anymore to make compatible things to the Revo system or Revo ecosystem. And also, now that you have this additional ecosystem, you need to have different products compatible with the normal M6 standard, which is compatible to all the Ender style stuff and the E3D Slice Engineering and whatever ecosystem. So it complicates things.
What I would have suggested, but I'm not sure how it would work out from a geometry perspective, is to make like a Revo adapter where you have just a blank, not a blank nozzle, but you have what is typically the Revo nozzle, but it has an M6 female thread at the bottom, and you can just tighten a nozzle into that Revo adapter and use that inside the Revo system.
I made some rough measurements from the pictures this morning and noticed that there is probably not enough space in like above the current nozzle to fit an M6 thread, because I think
it would need to stick out towards the bottom.
Exactly. So I think the diameter of the inside of the heater core is maybe 6 to 7 millimeters, something like that. So
hey, maybe we can establish yet another standard and make M4 nozzles.
Yeah. Less
material used, and it should work just fine for 1.75. And Revo, by the way, Revo is only available for tearing down the microphone. Revo is only available for 1.75. It is not available for 3 millimeters, and there are no plans to make it available for 3 millimeters currently, because it is a dying standard. So
it is a dying standard, and well, to be honest, and I think also as like the frequency asked questions answered that question on the E3D website. If you are maybe a manufacturer like BC and Sigma, who is ordering, we want to have 1,000 or 10,000 of these hot ends. Of course, E3D will probably manufacture them for you. But I guess for those people who just want to upgrade their machine, the market is basically just not big enough. And who else besides some bigger professional printer manufacturers is still using 3mm filament. It's Ultimaker, it's
BCN3D load spot. You can choose. You can choose now. You can choose between 1.75 and 3.
And then you have, I don't know, Big Rep or...
True, but that's like super specialty stuff.
No.
So yeah, I mean, right now for BCN3D, E3D are manufacturing the Hotends, but it's basically a slightly modified V6 design. And that sort of stuff, I think, is still going to be around. So if manufacturers need a 3mm design and need E3D to make it, they still have the V6. And that's also for like the consumer-facing stuff. V6 is not going away. But Revo is going to be an alternative to V6, and if you want to buy a genuine E3D Hotend, you can either get a V6 or you can get a Revo Hotend for the time being.
The question is, at a price which is, I don't know, they always said it's just a little bit more expensive. I think it's almost like twice the price. They're aiming towards £100, and I guess
true, but 100. So the official price that has been released is roughly £100 with a full set of nozzles.
With a full set of nozzles.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know how much of this is intended for the public yet, but yes, it is going to be more expensive. But a basic Revo is not going to be crazy more expensive than a V6.
But even like a pre-assembled V6 direct drive Hotend is £50 with one nozzle.
Which honestly I think is a really competitive and fair price for a V6.
Yeah.
I've and for the longest time I've not bought stuff. I've not bought a V6 from E3D. I've never needed a new one, and when I needed stuff, I just ask them, hey, I need like this specialty assortment of parts. Can you like check if you still have any of those? But I would have guessed the V6 would have been more expensive. I think I still remember it being like $60 or something. And then I checked how much nozzles are, and V6 nozzles are £4.20. Just a standard 0.4, which I think is really good compared to like no-name questionable quality ones. Which of course are much less expensive, but for £4.20, how much is it? Like €3 right now?
No, rather 5, and then you also have to include the value tax. So it's $6. I recently bought a couple of E3D nozzles from I think 3D Jag, and they were €7 or €8 a piece. Okay,
well that's with a reseller in between.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I think the biggest hurdle to Revo pricing and like framing Revo pricing is that it's going to get compared to V6, which is obviously a system where all the engineering effort has been paid off, and where they have like to the T figured out how to manufacture the thing as cheaply and as efficiently and as consistently as possible. So they have low rejection rates. They have all their machining, their cam figured out to where they can crank these things out like a madman and still make good quality. So, of course, with Revo still being so new, I don't know if pricing is going to be the same in, I don't know, half a year or a year as it is right now. But as it stands, it is going to be, I don't know how much of the exact pricing I can reveal, but it's
well, on their website still, they're saying it's £100, so $120 for,
you know, exactly for the set with all the nozzles,
with 4 nozzles,
exactly. Yeah. So it's not in a different league as V6. I think that the prices that I've heard, they still sound reasonable to me. But yeah.
Well, in comparison to, for example, a Mosquito Hotend.
Oh yeah, well,
it is definitely compatible, because a Mosquito Hotend with thermistor heater, a thermistor and a heater and just one nozzle sets you back almost $200.
Yeah, exactly. So in the grand scheme of things, I think it is still very reasonably priced. Of course, you have that big looming. It's now a proprietary system. Yeah, that more so than pricing would be a thing that needs to be answered for me.
Yeah. But what do you think? Who needs a Revo system, or for whom would you recommend buy a Revo, spend more money in comparison to a normal V6? Is this something where you say, okay, it's so nice of having a more robust system, being able to swap the nozzles more easily and stuff like that it's worth the price tag? Or would you say to somebody who is basically never changing a nozzle, stay with the V6, that's all you ever need?
So the Revo is supposed to be a system that performs slightly better than V6, and it's not that much more expensive. So just if you first of all, if you just need one nozzle and you're not somebody who clogs their nozzles constantly, that's actually, so Sanjay asked me, hey, when do you think on the entire topic of component pricing, like when do you swap nozzles? And I was like, okay, I swap nozzles when I want to use a different size or when I've worn through or damaged one. And Sanjay was like, that's interesting, because most people actually swap the nozzles when they've clogged them. So that might be a beginner thing, or just not knowing how to take care of your filament and using it wrong. So if you're somebody who actually destroys nozzles by clogging them, then going with standard V6 might be cheaper in the long run. But if you take care of your printers and if you use them in a way where the stuff lasts, then I think just for the extra performance you're getting with Revo, like again, it's not going to be that much better, but just for the extra performance that you're getting with Revo, it's already worth it. And then of course the other thing is you can swap nozzles. Nozzle swapping is something that in a V6-ish ecosystem is not something that you really do. Like with me, I usually I have one printer that has one nozzle size, and of course I have plenty of printers that I can choose between. But I don't swap in a different nozzle just for like one print, because it might save me an hour or two on a print. I usually just I leave the 0.4 nozzle in there as long as I can, and I just use that. And of course, the print takes a bit longer, whatever. But with Revo, you can now do that. You can set up your different slicing profiles and say, okay, this is the 0.6, this is the 0.4, this is the 0.25, and you can choose for each individual print which nozzle you want to use. Because the nozzle swap is, first of all, you're not burning your fingers, you don't have to preheat the printer, and the changing process itself is way quicker, and there's way less that can go wrong because it's just hand tightening the stuff.
And you don't need to re-level or readjust the distance of the nozzle to the bed. And I think this might actually be one of the biggest reasons for me that I also don't really do it that regularly.
You shouldn't. I mean, if you have E3D nozzles, you shouldn't need to re-level with V6 either. But of course, you have that mating surface between the heat break and the nozzle, and you might get some stuff in there, and I don't know. So I don't know how much that extra feature of being able to swap nozzles for every single print and just to do it quickly, how much that would be worth to me. I don't know. I've not used it yet. I've not felt Revo. I've seen it in videos and stuff, but I've not held it in my hands, which actually puts me behind like a couple hundred beta testers who have tested Revo already and who are now publishing reviews on beta hardware, which is something that I've decided never to do, but okay, to each their own. But yeah, I've got to try it out, and I've got to hold it in my hands to get a feel for it.
Yeah.
The new heater core, of course, is is better. Like, that's objectively better than the old aluminum block and assembly that they've had with V6. That ceramic heater, a lot cleaner, a lot nicer.
Yes, a lot cleaner and a lot nicer. Definitely. The thing that I find really important is that the possibility of ripping off heater and thermistor wires is way smaller,
Yes.
as they say. I don't know if that's really the case. I have had a blob of death around my E3D V6 heater blocks plenty of times. Most of the times I was able to get the plastic off without ever damaging something, but I have changed a bunch of thermistors over the years on, for example, my Prusa printers, just because if you just brush them clean with a brass wire brush, sometimes you slip off and then you rip something. And this is, I think, one of the really big and nice things which makes it safer and which makes it more reliable and just way easier to use. The old stiff wires from the heater were always a pain. The old really flimsy and easily breaking off wires from the thermistors were always a pain.
Before the cartridge thermistor?
Well, even with the cartridge thermistors, and I do have the feeling that also the cartridge thermistors went through one or the other iteration. But
for sure.
I had cartridge thermistors that were just horrible and with flimsy wires, and then I had other ones that worked really well. And then you always had the problem that when you were tightening the thermistor with the small grub screw, that you could damage the ceramic in the thermistor cartridge, and then everything's just crumbling out and all of that pain.
So yeah, that is all now pre-assembled in one unit. And ripping wires off is going to be an absolute non-problem. There is a reinforcement bit in there that ties the wires to the actual heater core. So if you were to like physically rip off the wires, you would rip off that reinforcement piece too. So you can't rip it out of the thermistor. You would have to rip the wires themselves. Yeah. And I don't think that's really going to happen.
Yeah. The thing they were also bragging about are the shorter heat up times, and I totally get that the thermal mass is definitely smaller, but the thing is the thermistor is now basically at like the heating unit and way further away from the nozzle. So I think the readings that you have with the thermistor now are lagging quite a bit behind the nozzle, just because the distance is way bigger. And I don't know, I'm not sure if that causes a problem during printing, but I think that's a bit, I don't know, nuts. I wouldn't say false advertising, but misleading advertising. And there is a reason why in the past they put their thermistor always on the other side as the heater cartridge.
Yeah. The thing is, so that the thermistor in the Revo heater core is quite close to the ceramic heater. Whereas on the V6 there was at least some aluminum between. So when people are saying, hey, we've got heat up times of like 8 seconds, like you said, I don't think that's going to be at the nozzle tip. I think that is just going to be the thermistor, because there is less thermal mass, but there's not there's not like 1/10 of this thermal mass. It's still quite a significant amount there. And of course it's now all brass. So the heater core on the inside is brass as well. There's no aluminum anymore, so thermal conductivity is going to be down a bit from using aluminum, at least for the heater block.
Yeah. As I said, I don't know if that's going to be a problem in the end. I guess it's rather a nice feature to have, because you don't have to wait. Because usually the printers wait until the nozzle is hot and then start homing, and until they start printing, another just minute passes. So that just speeds up everything. And until you have like printed your purge line and stuff like that, things should be normalized. But the question is, due to the distance of the thermistor to the nozzle, is that bad for, like, I don't know, the performance when you're printing very fast, or
just dynamic performance
or
when you're soaking up heat energy with the filament. I mean, the amount of energy that actually goes into the filament is not that significant, but it is a significant amount of the energy that's going into the hot end. A lot of it is just dissipated through the heat break. But the fact that he's soaking out energy from the nozzle and the thermistor is now coupled to the heater more closely, it might make it more slow. It might make it slower to react to those dynamic loads. We'll see. Once I get my hands on one, I'll definitely hook up a thermocouple to it and just run it through some tests and compare it to the classic V6. Yeah. Or thermal camera.
I'm also really looking forward to, but I at least I don't have any information yet when and if I'll be getting one of the units. I think the Revo is due to be released at the end of this year. I think they're starting with pre-orders in November, I think the website states. So there will be still a bit of time until like normal users can purchase it, which might also give us some time to create reviews for the release date. But would have been nice if so. That's of course. Oh, here goes the tangent. With this stuff being released, like Revo, what I would really prefer companies doing is reaching out to like key online leaders, KOL influencers, key opinion leaders, reviewers. Influencers, yes. Trusted people who do reviews and try to do like journalism as much as they can within the constraints of the platform that they're doing, they're serving, and just doing the classic embargo thing. It's been something that phone manufacturers have been doing for the longest time. Anything that's like consumer electronics, where it's like, okay, here we communicate with you. We're going to release this new product at, I don't know, November 2021, on November 21st. We're going to release it and we're going to announce it then, and people will be able to buy it then. And on that day, you can release your review, or, I don't know, 24 hours after the release or something. And then they provide the finished product to reviewers before that, so that they have plenty of time to review it, and then have a nice review that like wasn't rushed, that wasn't like done as quickly as possible just to be like the first one out the door. That they have that opportunity to do that. With like beta reviews being out there, and with, I don't know, there might be an embargo or not, with the early review units that they may or may not ship out. It feels a bit chaotic. And you do run into that risk of people rushing a review out the door, not doing it properly, just trying to be the first ones, and it just being bad reviews in the end. So having a bit of extra time, having a bit of time to plan for these things, because a good review takes time, especially with 3D printing, where you literally have a process that you're inspecting. You have a process of the printer doing its thing, and you have to wait for that. It would be nice if like embargoes and just release planning by the manufacturers would be a bit more widely adopted. Just a bit of a tangent there. Yeah. Maybe as a summary, or not as a summary, I'm really looking forward to, because I tend to swap nozzles quite regularly. I'm currently again upset because I have ruined like my 5th heater block, and the threads of the aluminum block sheared out again, and just having the ease of switching nozzles way more easily. I don't need to be afraid that much anymore that I rip the wires. Also, I think the more compact size makes some really cool cooling solutions now possible. And nozzle cam, for example, might work way better with just like the smaller heater block or heater core. So I'm looking forward to. I am a bit upset that it currently takes away the possibility to use it for testing third-party nozzles, but maybe there is a solution to that in the future.
I don't know. Maybe it's just there's no third-party nozzles anymore. That would be a sad world, but you never know. I've thought about doing like a Revo adapter myself if there's not enough meat there. Just chuck it in a lathe, turn off the original nozzle, and braise another slug of brass onto it, and just thread that. I mean, would be an option, right?
Would be an option. Maybe, as I said, well, that would make it longer if you would add just a smaller thread to a nozzle. Yeah,
then,
of course.
Then you have to turn down every nozzle you test. You have to take off the original M6 thread and turn onto turn a new M4 thread onto it.
Right there. I don't know. Shall we just, I guess, shortly touch the topic of patents again and how we feel about that? Because
I think we've touched on that well, but. Yeah, how long have you talked about Revo now? Half an hour? Wow.
Half an hour. Let me just maybe say something at the end. I don't know if you are on if you're thinking the same about that. I find it okay for E3D to patent the Revo because I have the impression that if they would not start patenting and making sure that they don't get cheap clones of their products in the future, that there won't be any E3D anymore in the coming future, because it doesn't make sense spending hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of bucks on a development if just a cheap Chinese manufacturer comes along and then produces the same part that you're selling for $100 for $20, just because they don't need the R&D budget.
Because E3D has done it for them.
Because E3D has done it for them. And either, I guess there are two possibilities. Either there isn't that much development in the near future, if patents and IP and things like that aren't a thing, and this is, on the one hand, bad for the consumer and also for the technology itself. Or you have the problem that, patents are there. Of course, currently you can get a knockoff nozzle for $1 or even more. You get a 5-pack for $1 of nozzles. I'm quite sure that a replacement Revo nozzle costs $20, which is also bad for the consumer, who is now upset if he or she has clogged one of these nozzles, that they have to pay that amount of money to get the printer running again. There is no perfect right or wrong there, but I think it's necessary to go that route, because otherwise I think there's no possibility that E3D can survive.
Yeah,
might be totally wrong there, but
I mean, that's
my take on that.
That is exactly how E3D argue for patenting their designs, and I can understand that. I can totally understand the reasoning for it. What it comes down to for me is I don't think the patent system as it stands right now is built particularly well for the reality that we have. No. So the entire, no mandatory licensing, 20 years of protection, like that entire thing. it's not just. It's a bit. It's shifting. It's shifting power too much towards the patenter, and limits everyone else a bit too much. So, yeah, I'm not going to give E3D a free pass on this because I've been ragging on every other manufacturer patenting stuff for the last years. But I can understand why they do it. I can understand why others do it. I disagree with the patent system, but the thing is, it's the system that they are forced to use more or less. It's don't hate the player, hate the game. Yeah.
Totally understand. I hope that E3D is implementing a fair licensing system for example, third-party nozzles. I think they're gonna do it because they're kind of, I don't know, might be a necessity for third-party nozzles for special applications, even though they also introduced their, what's it called? Their new nozzle?
Obsidian
nozzle.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're currently taking a look at the nozzle market, there are 1,000 different manufacturers claiming best wear resistance, best thermal properties, and stuff like that.
And if you want to be the standard, if you want to be the go-to hotend, you have to be open for third-party parts to be compatible with your stuff. So I guess one last thought or one last detail on the Revo system is they're still trying to like weave in, hey, E3D is still open source, and the way that E3D are still open sourcing Revo is anyone else can make a cold side to Revo. So basically I think it's an M4 thread up top, M4 thread, the flat, that is open source. So you can get the drawing for how long that thread should be, and you can make your own heatsink for it. So you can make extruders that can take the Revo hot side. But that, honestly, that's not much of an open source effort there.
Yeah. True.
Right. So what I put into the show notes here, threaded inserts. When you said, hey, you stripped your heater block, I immediately thought, hey, why not put a threaded insert into that? But the threaded inserts that you now have, they're not made for aluminum. They're made for plastic, right? Go ahead, plug your inserts. Come on. My 3D my threaded inserts that I'm now selling on Amazon, and hopefully either in my own shop or with a couple of other resellers. Unfortunately, currently only available in the EU. They are only for plastic, not for aluminum. Yes. There could be other solutions, but I guess it depends how hot you heat them up, right?
I wouldn't be sure if that works out. Yeah.
So find out.
We need to try that. I need to compare the melting points of aluminum and brass, but the problem with metal alloys is that they don't get squishy before they fall apart during melting.
They just flow away.
Yeah. Also, one of the reasons why you can't simply just put like solder into your extruder and print with it.
Well, it depends on which solder you use. There are some that do go goopy.
Yeah.
But yeah, Stefan has his own threaded inserts now. So CNC Kitchen brand threaded inserts, heat set inserts. I've got the bag upstairs. You gave me some when you were here. It is the double herringbone or the single herringbone style that grip really well into plastic, and they're available in quarter 20 thread, which is the standard camera thread for tripods, as well as M3 up to M5. Okay, so the smaller sizes. And yeah, there are CNC Kitchen branded inserts. Stefan has an eye on quality control there. And they are available on Amazon, and they're good quality inserts.
Yeah. So, of course, we are not the first ones to sell threaded inserts. They are also not like a special shape. They are basically they are catalog parts. They do have the same shape as the other ones that work really well. But it was kind of a logical step for us to just broaden like how we can support the channel and everything. And threaded inserts have been becoming more and more popular over the years. I am quite sure that I might also have been a part of that becoming popular movement. So
I mean, smart move there. Make it popular and then sell your own.
Yeah, of course. I should have sold them just like right from the beginning. But yeah, that didn't happen. It took us quite a while to find a manufacturer or supplier who was able to produce them at the quality we wanted them to have. We researched what sizes are popular. So what we, for example, have, you just said it, is the camera thread insert, because I always had the problem that if I made adapters or something which should be compatible to a tripod or something like that, yes, of course, you can 3D print a 1/4 inch thread, and that works kind of well. But soon as something a bit more heavy gets on it, it just doesn't hold anymore. And getting 1/4 inch nuts in Germany or probably in Europe is basically impossible.
Well, it is possible, but they're crazy expensive.
Yeah. So I thought it was quite a good move to have 1/4 inch inserts. And the other thing which I find really helpful, we also have basically half length threaded inserts. So the other ones are usually, the length is basically 2 times the thread diameter. They work for many parts, but sometimes if you have just a small enclosure or something like that, and you have a really thin wall thickness, it might be good to have just a shorter insert. So we have short versions of the insert and longer versions of the insert. And M3 to M5 at the moment, if there is demand for, many have asked me for M2.5 and M2 inserts.
Do they make M2 ones? I mean,
yes,
they surely must. I think I've seen them in like laptops and stuff. Well, now that laptops are all aluminum chassis, but back when they were still plastic chassis. Yeah.
And if there's enough demand, we might also make those ones available. As I said, they are not like special in terms of a new shape, but we try to make sure that quality is okay, that the price is competitive, and it just helps us out in like having an additional revenue stream. We'll see. And like first product.
Yeah, like you said. So go ahead.
And also the reason why I trademarked my company or YouTube channel name.
Yeah. So he keeps saying, hey, they're nothing special, and that might be true. That might be true that they're catalog parts, but it is, you are putting your name on that. You're putting your name behind the product. You're making sure they're consistent quality when somebody buys a CNC Kitchen product, be it a threaded insert or whatever else you're going to be making in the future. You will have made sure that they are up to a standard that you would want to use personally as well. And that is the value add that you get with that. All right, so check them out below. Links are obviously in the show notes or in the video description on YouTube.
Yep.
Then I wonder if Prusa, does Prusa use threaded inserts?
No, they only use their like
square nuts. Yeah. I upgraded the SL1S 2 days ago on Sunday, and oh god, what a finicky assembly.
I have quickly joined your stream, I guess, right at the beginning, and just the next morning I saw that it took you like 4 hours.
I was chatting with people in chat a lot too, of course. But the SL1S, I did build that printer from the kit. I don't know if they even still make the kit, but even back then it was pretty clear that is not a printer that was designed to be built by you. I think that very much that is designed to be built in a factory where everything's like neatly laid out and you have good lighting and all that. And it is a very, I keep looking at it, it's sitting over there. It is a very tight and like it doesn't have like a lot of space on the bottom compartment, and you need to reach through like the entire thing to thread in a little screw all the way at the bottom. You have to reach through the screen hole. It is a very, very tight machine, and yeah, they are using those square nuts still. So it's pretty clear that the SL1 was never designed to be upgradable. It was never designed to be worked on by anyone, except if you really had to because you're replacing something. But the way that the SL1S upgrade like attaches to the original parts in the SL1, so some solutions are very borderline. The way that they're doing some connectors and then holding like adapter boards on the connector in place, and you can like see the connector like slightly squishing. You've got so many parts that are incompatible with the original SL1. You're throwing out the screen, of course, because it's now a mono screen. You're throwing out the LED. You're throwing out the VAT, which is a really nice solid slab of aluminum in the original SL1, and you just chucked it because it is slightly too small.
Okay.
You get a new build plate. You get a new fan that now doesn't cool the LCD screen anymore, but adds more cooling to the LED assembly. It's just, and then because it uses that cool capacitive resin level sensor. So it uses the build plate and the rest of the frame as it uses the build plate. It uses the screen VAT assembly. That is like one pole of the capacitor, one plate of the capacitor, and then the build plate as the other plate, and it measures like what the capacity is between those two. And because they're now not using that aluminum resin VAT anymore, they're using a plastic one, the capacity has changed. So the cable that connects the screen and the VAT electrically to that sensor now has a little tiny 220 220 nanofarad capacitor in the cable in heat shrink light. It's just such a janky solution. Yeah, it works, but it's not something. I hope they're building the new SL1s that you buy from the factory. I hope they're building those differently, but like I would have expected cleaner solutions from Prusa, though, to be honest, like I don't think they had much of a choice for making this upgrade happen at all, because resin hardware is a lot more proprietary and specialized than just like an Mark III to MK3S upgrade. So
yeah, and well, it comes with a pretty hefty price tag, $400 for just like the upgrade that gets you a new Elegoo Mars.
Well, plus you still need to factor in like Shito subscriptions and that sort of stuff. So like, not quite a fair comparison.
Yeah. Don't want to. No, the question is, do you think the upgrade is, I guess, worth the price and worth the effort you need to go through? And is it something you would recommend to any SL1 owner?
It depends. So I probably wouldn't say every SL1 owner needs to upgrade it, but given the fact that the SL1S is a €2,000 machine and the upgrade is 400, I think you're getting a really good deal, because you are getting most of the SL1S hardware in that upgrade kit, which then again, of course, begs the question, like, is the rest of the SL1 hardware really worth $1,600? But that's a different topic. So you are getting a screen, you're getting a whole new LCD, you're getting a new power supply, you're getting a new VAT, and you're getting a new build plate. And I would say if you're at the point with your SL1 and you've worn through the LCD screen and you would need to replace that, I think don't get the new screen. The new screen is, I don't know, $80, $100. It's pretty expensive. Just get the upgrade kit, because that does include a new screen. And if you are using your SL1 a lot and you're waiting for prints, that is the biggest upgrade, because print speed is like tripled. But if you're happy with the SL1 as is, and it is, where's that print? I've just had it. It's behind me. If you are happy with the way that the SL1 prints, like it is still a really good SLA printer. It's just not as fast as it could be with the SL1S upgrade.
Yeah.
Like if you're using it a lot, then the print speed is worth it. But otherwise, if you're happy with the SL1, stick with the SL1. Honestly, it's still a great printer. You do get a slightly larger build volume too, build area too. I think it's like a centimeter wider.
Okay.
But
is the monochromatic display going to wear out slower than the old ones?
So in theory, if you keep the LED power the same, it should wear out much slower than the RGB versions, because there is less heat buildup in the screen. And they have also removed the fan that was cooling the old RGB screen. Though with that removal of the fan, you are now not cooling the screen as well anymore, or at all. And they have also, I think, like quadrupled the LED power from just the UV LEDs. So I think that basically makes up that advantage that the monochromatic screen would have as far as like energy absorbed. And you are now probably seeing like roughly equivalent amounts of energy that gets absorbed in that screen. So I don't think the monochromatic screen is something that would last long in the SL1S.
Okay.
Though I don't know, there might be some extra special magic in that screen, that it might be like a semi-custom one that is built specifically for that. I don't know.
Okay. How long is usually the lifetime of one of these LCD panels? Is it like in the hundredth of hours or thousands of hours?
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. So let me see if there is. Okay, so old SL1 had 500 hours, I believe. That was like that it was rated for or guaranteed for. Though, like if you look at the Mars printers, the reported lifetimes are between 200 and over 2,000 hours, somewhere in that neighborhood. Because they don't wear down evenly. And I'm trying to find the estimated or guaranteed lifetime of the screen for the SL1S, for the new monochromatic screen. Sorry. And they're saying 2,000 hours. So they're giving a warranty of 2,000 hours on the new monochromatic screen. So should be a lot better, though they may also have like downrated the RGB screen on the old SL1 quite a bit with those 500 hours, and it might have lasted longer. I don't know.
Interesting. Nice.
Yeah.
Let's maybe stay on the Prusa topic.
Yes.
Talk about Prusa Professional, or the future of manufacturing by Prusa Research.
Yeah. So Prusa is in Dubai right now. Well, I don't know if he's made it back, but the Prusa team is at the Dubai Expo 2020, which is happening in 2021 because it's been postponed. They are showing a print farm with I don't want to say print farm, because when I say print farm, you imagine like the Prusa setup in Prague where they're making all the plastic parts for the Mark IIIs. But they actually have a like half container sized printer farm box with 34 printers integrated into one frame, and I believe there is an automatic collecting system built into that as well, where you don't even have to like manually reset the machines and harvest your parts. That happens automatically. So pretty interesting. It's Core XY. It is not Prusa XLs, but it is
not Prusa Mark IV. Yeah,
it is not an i3 Mark IV. It's not even an i3 frame design.
Yeah,
but yeah, it looks a lot like the Voron 2. Like, let's be honest, it looks I don't know, Voron 2 or Switchwire or which, because it does have the moving bed. The bed does move on like two rails on each side. The bed does move up and down, and the XY axis is... Well, to be honest, there aren't that many ways to build a Core XY, so it kind of necessarily looks like a Voron.
It does look like a Voron, I think, due to the fact that it's all black with orange and the Vorons are red, and that they are also, I think, employing a direct extruder, which is something that... you don't see that much on Core XY printers. And I find it pretty interesting. It's really nice to see. And I think also kind of logic that they're trying to get into the more professional market, because I guess there is the necessity for print farms. And of course you could do those print farms with Mark IIIs or with Prusa Minis. But if you really want to go big, like an automated print plate removal system, and also the print management software, I think is also a really, really interesting and important thing for such an application, where you could get your return on investment quite a bit faster. Of course, people could argue that at a price tag of, what are they aiming at, $3,000? Oh, it's way more expensive than just buying Mark IIIs and maybe the print volume.
For what? For per machine?
Per machine.
Because $3,000 for like the 34 printers would be amazing.
No. $3,000 per printer. Well, at a plus depending on the on the size of print farm you're taking a look at, but $3,000. Yeah, so it's okay.
It's basically for what you're seeing with those 34 printers. It's $100,000, which is, I mean, yeah, it's expensive, but if you're talking industrial, like that's nothing. That is absolutely nothing on if you're like an actual professional user. And if you consider that this thing probably needs a lot of maintenance and doesn't need a babysitter for sure. Whereas if you have, I don't know, a set of Ultimakers or a set of Mark IIIs or something, which might come in cheaper as the initial investment, but you need somebody to be there 24/7 basically for the machine park, for the print farm to keep operating, servicing printers, swapping out parts. Filament, I don't know how they're handling that. Whether they've just got 34 5-kilogram spools in the back and like a pre-feeder or something.
It looks like it.
Yeah. But yeah, the fact that you have that automatic print removal system is really good. Really good.
I guess also the implementation into this custom rack system with the aluminum extrusions also makes it really interesting. Well, of course, it only does it make look a bit more tidy. You could also just place them on racks or something like that.
Sure. But I guess with the automated removal system, so that the way I imagine it works is it's working in that airspace between right now at the Dubai Expo they have like a glass panel in front between that glass panel and the printer itself, and you have like an XY motion system that grabs the beds from each printer. So what it's doing at the Dubai Expo right now is they've got it integrated into like an art installation, I guess they're calling it, where you have a touchscreen interface up front, and you can actually walk up to the print farm and you can create a snowflake. I guess it's like a parametric design thing that you can play around with some sliders. But you can create your own unique you can be your own unique snowflake, create your own snowflake, and it gets printed and you can pick it up, I don't know, an hour later and assemble it into an art install on site where you can place your unique generated physical snowflake into that sculpture that's being built on site. Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty cool demo, right?
Yeah. Nice. I honestly was a bit upset that no Mark IV or Prusa XL was announced. I hope this doesn't delay those developments by, I don't know, years.
Honestly, I think this is just a very logical thing for Prusa to do, and not one that necessarily takes all that much development effort. Yeah, the auto unloading and tool plate swapping, that's something to figure out. But hey, I did it in a week, so like, why couldn't Prusa do it? And considering that this is not Prusa XL, but it is surely a relative of Prusa XL. It is probably very closely related to Prusa XL. And they already have the print farm management software that they're using on their own farm. I think for them, it was mostly just plugging stuff together that they already have and making sure it works in this new configuration. I don't think this was a super massive, we're starting something new from the bottom. They had all the components figured out already, and they're just putting it together.
Yeah,
that's the feeling that
and just having something like that with the components that you probably want to use for a new machine, also it gives you the possibility to test it for like a really long amount of time. And Prusa has been using their Mark II, Mark III printers for ages to produce plastic parts for their other machines, and this way they were able to figure out the small quirks and things that were not working, and finally resulting in a better product for the consumer. So having maybe just a small part of what they're showing at the Dubai Expo in their own printing lab or whatever makes sure that the parts they want to later apply in a Mark IV, or just maybe also the management software that might be compatible. Not with a Mark IV, with an XL, but their print management software that probably will also be compatible to the Mark IV or the Prusa Minis is really nice, because they're not shipping like a beta unit, which has only seen a couple of hours of printing. And let's hope for the best.
Absolutely, yeah. I really want to see what they do next. Going from like, especially like the lower end stuff, high end. Sure, you can always throw more money and more effort onto something, and you make a better product. But what I think Prusa have really been good at is just making the most out of a lower end system. So the Mark III was a really good printer at the time, still is a good one, but it's starting to lag behind. I really want to see what they do with the Mark IV and what stuff they come up with for that printer, because every printer so far has been doing new things that really nobody else had done at the time, and every time it's pushed the envelope of what was possible. It's always pushed that, and other companies have started to pick up on it, and it made the 3D printer market better as a whole. I mean, these, one of my favorite inventions. Like, I don't know if anybody else would have ever come up with them. But
I'm really excited to see if they're sticking to their manufacturing approach, and if they are continuing to print many of the parts for their upcoming machines, or if they at some point reach the units that they're shipping, that investing in an injection mold might be something feasible. But I think they always argued against that, because that doesn't make them that flexible anymore with like iterating on a product. We'll see.
We are seeing a hybrid approach. I mean, they've dabbled into doing injection molded. They've done the it's over in the other room. They've done the spool holder that is injection molded with the two like twist parts, and I think they still ship those. And on the SL1, I've actually been observing like what parts they print and which they don't. And of course, some parts like the crazy and stupid fan rerouting shroud that he literally cannot injection mold it, and he cannot manufacture that any other way unless you do like a 3-part assembly in the end. They're still 3D printing that. They're still 3D printing a lot of the parts for the SL1 because that is a low volume product in the end. But for example, the vat, the resin vat, is injection molded because, well, I guess milling it out of aluminum was kind of expensive. And you can't really 3D print that either because you need smooth surfaces for the FEP to film, to seal up. So yeah, I think that they're really choosing their battles. They're choosing which parts make sense for injection molding, and they're choosing which ones are still 3D printed. Even looking at the Mini. The Mini has
the Prusa Mini. I think the front of the Prusa Mini is injection molded now.
Front and back plate, those are injection molded, but then the end piece of the X-axis arm and I think the extruder bits still have 3D printed parts. So they're really choosing the correct way of manufacturing parts for whichever part they're making. Yeah, and that's a good position to be in.
Yeah. When's actually the next big 3D printing expo? Formnext is coming up.
Formnext, yeah. BCN3D just asked me about, hey, are you going to be at Formnext?
Yeah.
But Formnext has always been a bit too industrial,
It has been becoming less industrial, I guess, the last 2 years. I'm also constantly thinking about if I should go there or not. Currently, I think I'll skip this year again, just still due to pandemic reasons.
So TCT, of course, just happened in the UK, in Birmingham again. And yeah, looking at what the show flow looks like makes me at least uncomfortable. And I don't know, I probably wouldn't be having a good time. That's the thing. Could have gone in low risk. I mean, there's probably more risk jumping out of an airplane with a parachute on your back. That's probably lower risk than going to an expo at this time. I
would argue against that. Not if people want to meet you, but
yeah, I don't know. Doesn't feel
anyways,
right. Yeah, maybe.
I also decided spontaneously.
When actually?
I think in November again.
The question is, when is this entire thing going to be over? When is the point where it's like, oh, sure, I'm going to go, because like third vaccination?
Maybe. I hope that next year is going to be way closer to normal. I already said that to you before we started recording, that I have been on holiday. I have been like in other countries camping and in hotels for the last almost 6 weeks, and nobody gave a shit about my vaccination certificate.
Yeah.
Besides, yes, when I was in Salzburg, like last weekend, they checked my vaccination certificate, but they just looked at the QR code and a name, and that's it.
Okay, so no actual checking.
No, the Apple store in Florence checked my temperature, and
something.
We visited a church in Florence, and they checked my vaccination certificate really with like scanning the QR code. I think this was the most proper way, even though they didn't check my ID next to it. But anyways, so it is different than it was last year, but I almost have the feeling that people are not taking it as seriously anymore as we still sometimes should do. And I don't know how it's gonna end up after like this fall or in winter, or we'll see.
Yeah, and you have a small child. It's gonna be mild case at worst, but long COVID. It's not really any good data on that, and right now it's not looking too good on that. I have grandparents whose immunity is probably starting to wane again and to go down again, and like all a bit iffy. Anyways, what else do we have? We have actually let's skip this one. Maybe let's do it next time. The staying on the topic of Prusa and resin and all that sort of stuff. Just a quick follow up to last time, the Mars 3 compatibility with other tools. Yeah, it doesn't work with any other tools. It literally just works with Sheet2Box.
Okay, so
you can go into
Lychee Slicer is not working.
Nope. Yeah, so Lychee Slicer has like an official compatibility chart that you can look up, and it ends at the Mars 2 Pro. It's just it just ends there. So Mars 3. Yeah, and it is. I don't know how much into detail we went there last time, but it is looking more and more like the way that the SDK is going to work for allowing third-party slices back into the Sheet2 locked down ecosystem, is that the slicer provider is going to have to pay for that SDK license. That is currently how it's going to look. So probably if it's Lychee Slicer, I envision there being a Shitu subscription tier where you pay, I don't know, Lychee Slicer has like the free tier and $2.99 a month. And then there being, I don't know, a $5.99 a month tier for being able to print on the Mars 3 and other lockdown Shitu printers. That's just pure speculation. I don't know about any of the specific plans and terms yet, but that is what I think is the most likely way how it's going to go down. Which also means that slicers like Prusa Slicer or other like open source slicers, I'm probably never going to see support for those lockdown printers unless it ends up being like a, I don't know, you download the slicer and then you have to buy a closed source plugin separately to be able to allow to be able to use printers like the Mars 3. So, yeah.
Okay.
I think Elegoo are getting a lot of the flack for this entire thing, but the way I understand it, it is Elegoo weren't totally on board with this from the start. So the way I understand it is Shitu Systems came out with this and basically just said, hey, by the way, your next print is going to be locked down. And like, what is Elegoo going to do? Right. They don't have their own ecosystem. They don't have an alternative. They can use it or they can't. And they decided, hey, let's at least include like a 1-year license. And yeah, I think they got the short end of the stick on that deal.
Do you think this might give the possibility that open source either hardware or just firmware for either the Shitu box hardware might exist in the future? The
way it has been explained to me is it is not that hard to build an open source firmware for the actual controller for the MCU that's running the show on those printers. But it is quite hard to make firmware for the FPGA that's driving the screens. And apparently that is something that is tied into the firmware. And I don't know how exactly that would not be available to use with an alternative firmware. I don't know, but that seems to be a problem for just replacing the firmware on those printers.
Okay.
I know there are some alternatives being developed for the hardware in those printers. And for example, Creality already has their own ecosystem. Which is not reliant on Shitu. And of course, Prusa is their own system. But yeah, I don't see much of a chance of the existing Shitu-based hardware being flashed or jailbroken at some point to allow third-party slicers to work with them.
Okay,
unfortunately.
But there still might be the option to just replace the main board and use a custom firmware.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. If you completely replace the main board, but okay. I mean, with the higher price printers like the Mars 3, $300, it might make sense. But if you have like a Mars 1, which of course with the stock firmware isn't locked down, but if you have a printer that's that cheap, you probably don't want to spend another $150 on a replacement board. Just to be able to use another slicer. That's probably not a very attractive offering there.
People are spending $150 on printers and then invest like triple that amount on modding them until they properly work.
True. Well, of course, I mean, the alternative is like, hey, you mod them for them to work. In the case of like the resin, the lockdown Shitu slicers, you mod them until they work with a different slicer, or you just pay the $170 a year for Shitu Box Pro. So, I mean, true. That would.
But I guess this is not so satisfying for people if they need to pay for the subscription service.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's no achievement.
We'll see.
And let's quickly touch this last topic because I think this is an absolute... We don't have an explicit flag on this podcast. Okay. This is a lowly move by MakerBot. by MakerBot Stratasys, they are replacing affiliate links in Thingiverse designs. So quick touch up on affiliate links. Affiliate links are special tagged links that we use them all the time if we show a product that people like us or people who design stuff and publish it for free can place and say, hey, you can buy, I don't know, this threaded insert on Amazon that you're going to need for this design. Yeah. And you have a tag to that link, and whoever placed that link gets a small amount of kickback. That basically, if you have a popular design, can amount to a couple $100 in referral fees, basically, without directly costing the person who's buying the stuff through those links anything extra. So now Thingiverse is taking those links, they're scanning them, and if somebody places an affiliate link, they strip out the affiliate link code, the original one, and place their own link. So now when somebody buys something through that link, it is MakerBot earning those referral fees and not the people who were uploading the designs, which is what a I'm trying to keep this kids friendly, but holy crap!
That's a really big move. And the thing is, so I read this, I guess, a couple of days or even weeks before on Twitter, but I tried it out this morning. So what Thingiverse does is, if you're using the shortened Amazon links, right, where there is like not directly your affiliate code in the link itself, they disassemble that and use and put in, like in plain text, your full affiliate link. Right. So if you are just seeing your link on screen that you placed there, it looks like as if this is still your link. But if you hover over it and check which URL it is pointing to, they only replace or they only add their affiliate code there. And this is it's not just being the asshole and stripping creators of revenue. It's also being sneaky and misleading. Yeah. Because the link that you see is not the link that you're actually being sent to. No.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
And I tried to go over the terms and conditions this morning of Thingiverse, and of course I didn't read everything, but just my rough search, or using my rough search, I didn't find anything in that regard. It might be hidden in some like lawyer English in there, that they have the right to alter your links, that Thingiverse is at the end the one who is placing the affiliate link or gets the affiliate revenue. But yeah, as I said, I find that a not so really nice move. They have already started implementing implementing ads on Thingiverse. Thingiverse is still like broken.
I mean, ads, okay, I can see that. Like, you have to finance the website totally somehow. But with ads, you're not taking away from anyone. Of course, you're stealing people's time by having to scroll over ads, etc. But you're not ripping the revenue out of the creator's hands directly. God, MakerBot. What have you become? I mean, is this something they have become, or is it just something that they're getting less good at hiding?
I don't know. But I'm not sure if, like, with the transition into ads on Thingiverse, if they have, I don't know, even sold Thingiverse, or if it's now just managed by somebody else. But I find that move just like really dodgy. So look,
I've not used I've not used Thingiverse for years to upload my own stuff. I don't actually upload my stuff to Thingiverse anymore. I just upload to Prusa printers and Umagine. I don't use Thingiverse to find parts to print. And if any one of you guys out there is considering using Thingiverse, just don't. No, it's just, when it works, it's okay, but most of the time it doesn't work. It's laggy, it's buggy, and they're doing asshole stuff like that. I don't know. It still says MakerBot Thingiverse, so I would assume it is still very much run by MakerBot.
Yeah. So if you have your designs on Thingiverse, listeners and viewers out there, and you want to use affiliate links, that's not working anymore. You probably have to redirect them using Bitly or Google or Genius Link.
That would be interesting to try. Guess. I always do my links through a redirect plugin I've got on my website. So it's go.tomstudio.org/something. Yeah. If they actually take that as well. So whether they actually look at where your link finally points to. Because that would, if they're disassembling the Amazon short links, I would assume they're also disassembling, your
Genius links, for example.
Yeah, Genius links or other shortened link services.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where we are. All right. Shall we tackle questions?
Yes.
Or are you still?
I'm just starting to get worn out here.
And no worries.
Let's just do this last one here.
Okay.
So let me just pull up. Moving around the Google Doc. Let me just pull up a picture of what is being talked about here. That's the video by Re-Routed that you guys just heard. So basically there is that.
The precision machined Z-axis.
Yep, precision machined. Right, that's okay. It's that printer. Okay, I
the
know.
upside down 3D printer.
The upside down, that one. Yep. Yeah. So one of the features of that printer was the 90-degree Hotend, and that is what is being asked about here as well by JP. So he's asking for some more input from us on that specific nozzle, because it not only is so that print is not only printing upside down, but it's also taking the filament feed from the side and then internally like rerouting it 90 degrees to be pushed up. So that of course makes it super compact, because you can have your loops of your Bowden tube basically along the XY plane, and you don't have it sticking down or up. You just save a lot of space. It's also a problem on the Voron, for example, where you have your reverse Bowden feed, and it goes up into a space where the printer's over. There's no more printer left in that space where it actually need to route those Bowden tubes. Or worst of all, is it the Ultimaker S, for the fully enclosed Ultimakers, where they have like that shroud over top that's like 20 centimeters tall, just clear acrylic? That looks horrible.
Yeah.
So of course the way that Re-Routed has solved this is by making a custom 90-degree Hotend. So are there downsides? That's what JP is asking about here. Anything you can think about here, Stefan?
I guess just as he or she also points out in the question, I guess there are problems when you try to remove the material. If you have a clog in there is more molten material that you can't just pull out straight. So cold pulls are probably not possible with that design.
Not gonna happen.
And of course, the flow path, since it's bent, is probably not as smooth as with a straight Hotend, which might increase back pressure. If it's a lot, I don't know, but that could also be a downside.
So on that regard of, hey, the flow path is crooked, I don't think this is a problem at all, because you have such low velocities when it comes to just the speed of the material flowing through here. And typically, sharp bends like this are a problem when you have high velocity like airflow in a ventilation system. You really don't want any bends because that slows you down. But with a low flow setup like a 3D printer Hotend, I don't think this is much of an issue. Thinking about this, actually, E3D did make something like this. Do you remember, Stefan?
The Cyclop.
Yeah. So E3D actually did build something like this. The Cyclops was a 2-in-1 out Hotend, where you have 2 inputs and then a special heater block and a special nozzle. That basically you had 2 filament paths. They took a sharp 90-degree bend and then they went back down into a single nozzle. They did build that and it did work.
Yep.
So it does work.
It even increases your Meltzone by quite a lot, so it might give you way higher output rates that way. Probably it's not that popular because with like the common style i3 designs, there isn't really the need for compactness, and the straight designs works well, is easy to manufacture.
And
but in the end,
that point of being easy to manufacture, I think that is the biggest point of this entire thing. The Revo design has been optimized to not need, or to be easier to machine and hopefully in the long run cheaper to make, because it's just turned parts on a lathe. Whereas V6 had all like the blocks that needed to be faced, the nozzle that
nozzles
had the hex part on it, and then drilled dots on the side. And Revo is now all just on a lathe, bar feed lathe. Basically, you shove in material on one side, it does its thing, and the finished part drops out. And with something like this, you have more machining directions, and you can't cost effectively manufacture this probably. Not as cost effectively as you could with something that is just a lathe part essentially. But it shouldn't be that much more expensive in machining costs if you consider like we just talked about, the slice engineering Hotends. They're like $200 for a total set. The extra cost to manufacture this would just get blurred out in the entire cost equation.
I think it's not that popular because there's not really the need for something like that. He had a special use case where this was more or less the only way to do it, or a really nice way to do it. But yeah, maybe this might also be a nice solution for another compact printer design.
Yeah, you just need to engineer for it, basically. So looking at the Voron, of course, you would need to make sure you have somewhere for that reverse Bowden path to go. Because if you just stick that Hotend design into a printer that is not made for it, you're probably going to get some issue. I guess in like a Prusa i3 style machine, you could just have the filament path going out the back, and just bundle it up with all the wiring that's coming out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then of course I guess
that wouldn't give you like a real huge advantage, of course. And
true. You could. I mean, what you're definitely going to get is if you have your extruder like sticking out the back, you can build that more compact. You need less build height for the entire extruder. So I guess with you could build it more compact. You could design a couple of features on the printer differently, and you wouldn't have the filament spool on the top of the printer, where it's honestly not in the best position up there. You could have it like on the side or in the front or like next to the bed, with a mount if you have just a reverse Bowden that moves all the way around the printer.
Yeah.
So those are options that you could do if you had that sort of a design in there. It's just it might be a really good option. It might be a really good designed for future printers, but of course it's not Revo compatible. So who knows if we're ever going to see it in a commercial machine.
Yeah. In the end, still a really nice design of the upside down 3D printer.
Absolutely. Fantastic details in there.
Yeah. All right. Guess that's it for today.
It is. Longest episode in a while, but we had lots to catch up on.
Definitely. Next one's gonna come in with a shorter pause in between, since I'm now finally back home and I currently don't have any trips planned.
Very good. All right then, Stefan, thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for yours.
Thank you all for listening on YouTube or on any of your favorite podcasting platforms. You can support us through Patreon, either through Stefan's or mine. Those are all linked below. We don't have YouTube memberships on this channel yet, right?
No, we don't, but we could activate it.
We could activate them? Cool. We should do that at some point. The other option, of course, is to use affiliate links. The links are going to be in the description down below to Stefan's threaded inserts, for example. Yeah, check this out. I think
Thingiverse.
we're not going to be linking to Thingiverse down there. But yeah, that's it for today. We will see you all again in a couple weeks.
Yep.
And that's we should script these outros.
Yeah.
This is awkward.
Until then, goodbye. See ya.